What's up, Life Challenge crew? Happy Sunday. Hope everybody is starting the day off right. Headed to the grocery store to start doing your meal prepping. Yesterday, you guys should have got an email from me talking about what foods to shoot for, what foods to eat in moderation, what foods to avoid. The Rainbow CSA package came in for me yesterday. I put a link to that in the email I sent out yesterday, but I think it's $40. That ends up being like 42 with tax. And yesterday I got a box, which is a pretty sizable box. It's probably about that big. And it's got, I think it's 20 pounds of vegetables and fruits. So yesterday, just so you guys know, the seasonal vegetables, I got muscadine grapes, I got potatoes, I got apples, a couple different kinds of carrots, zucchini, squash, yellow, cucumbers, tomatoes, bananas, kale, I think some parsley, a head of cabbage, green beans, and Brussels sprouts. And I think that's it. So it's a pretty sizable delivery. And they deliver right to your door, which is awesome. So definitely check that out. It's super helpful, especially if you're someone who kind of needs to be forced into eating vegetables. It kind of forces you to cook some vegetables that maybe you wouldn't necessarily go to cook. So awesome options, that Rainbow CSA package. Today, we have our first challenge. And I like to start off these challenges with kind of a macro perspective, or something to put your life in kind of a macro perspective. So last time we did the wellness wheel, it kind of graded your the different areas of your life on a scale from 0 to 10. This time we're doing the Centenarian Olympics, which is an idea that I got from Peter Attia, who's a longevity physician, for those of you guys who don't know. And Dr. Attia talks about the Centenarian Olympics is what are the people who are living the healthiest life into their 90s and 100s doing? And how do you train for that? So if you want to be a certain level when you're 100 years old, what do you need to be doing at 30? What do you need to be doing at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 to hit that target? And to me, this kind of resonates because for me, this is the game, right? How do I stay as healthy as possible for as long as possible? And a lot of modalities will be, how do I be as healthy as possible in the short term? But it's that longevity factor that's super important. So there's a few different factors that play into that. And how are we grading this, right? Are we just talking about physical health? Or are we also talking about mental health? And I think it's important that we have both. So a couple things I want you guys to consider is your why. Why is it important for you to be healthy, and what things are you going to look for as you reach those later years that are going to be important to you? And I think a lot of people discount the present, not thinking necessarily about the future. So a couple of categories I want you to think about: mental health, physical health, spiritual health. You can even add in sexual health in there as well. That's super important as well. And the other things I want you to consider, so when you're doing the sheet, it starts at 100. So you're going to start at what you want your life to look like when you're 100, what things will be important to you. And then from there, you go down to 90, and then you go down to 80, and then 70, and 60, and 50, and 40. The point is not to go from 40 to 100. The point is to go the opposite direction. Another thing to consider is strength loss as you get older. So I saw the article I was reading yesterday said that men after the age of 40 will lose about 30% of their muscle mass as they approach 70 and 80 years old. So the body's capacity to hold on to muscle is not as strong as you get older. So you need to be, for me, what that means is that you need to be as strong as possible at an earlier age. That way you're starting with a bigger surplus of muscle, right? It's much easier to put on muscle when you're younger than it is as you get older. So consider that. Consider that you're going to be losing strength each decade. Consider a couple of other things to consider would be grip strength. This was actually shown to be one of the biggest predictors of all-cause mortality. If you have a weak grip strength, when you so falls are one of the reasons that people die early. They'll fall and break a hip, and they'll become immobile, and it's a really slippery slope if you become immobile once you get into your 60s. I think the risk of dying, you have a 30 or 40% increase in dying if you break your hip in your 60s that year. So Grip strength is super important. Leg strength, right? The ability to get up and off the floor. A lot of times people will fall and they don't have the strength to get themselves up. Cardiovascular health as well, how efficient your heart is going. Flexibility is also super important. So consider those things, and then also consider what daily habits you'll need to be putting into practice for things like mental health. One of the big reasons I shouldn't say preach, but one of the biggest reasons that I push for people to think about doing something like meditation or breath work is it's a method of making sure that your mental health is calm, right? And your spiritual life is somewhat calm. If you don't have that practice, chances are you don't really have a practice, right? A lot of times people will lean towards drugs and alcohol as a way to relax, but that's not necessarily going to be working out well for you in the long terms in terms of health. So what habits can you pick up that would actually have a positive impact on your health? So those are a few things to consider. It doesn't need to be super extensive, but get detailed. You should have at least like 3 or 4 bullet points in each one of those boxes of things to consider. I'll also share mine if you guys want to check it out. And hopefully that'll give you guys some ideas for kind of what you're shooting for. And then, like I said, just consider your why. What's going to be important to you later in life? For me, I like being active. I like doing sports. So that's always the reason I've done CrossFit, is to make sure that, when I take a vacation to Portugal, or when I go to Colorado to snowboard, that I can maximize the amount of joy I can have during that time. If I'm not in shape, for instance, and I go to Colorado to snowboard and I can only snowboard for an hour a day, that's a huge bummer compared to if I'm in shape and I can go snowboard for 4 or 6 hours a day and be able to do that for 3 or 4 days in a row. That to me is super important. So what is your reason? What is super important to you as you get older? And even things like, considering your family and friends, how useful you'll be to your family and friends later in life. So anyway, check that out, guys. This challenge is worth 5 points. I would love everyone to complete this challenge because it's kind of the start. It kind of sets the tone for the rest of the month. So let me know if you guys have any questions. The spreadsheet should be up to date, and you guys should have tabs with your names at the bottom after today. Get in there and check that out. I'm going to order a few more books since we had a few people that showed up for the seminar that I wasn't expecting. So I'm going to order a few more of the Untethered Soul books. If you guys already ordered the book, you're welcome to return it. It's part of the $90 for the Life Challenge is going to be incorporating the cost of that book. So yeah, we can talk about that at the gym. Anyway, hope you guys have a good Sunday. Good luck meal prepping, and I will see you all tomorrow.